This is not clickbait, I promise. I'm currently looking to buy a house here in Austin. I'm planning on doing it with $0, and I'm gonna tell you exactly how. Yes, free. No money out of my pocket. And the best part about this is I won't have to worry about paying the mortgage either, a really high mortgage, because I'm gonna have people living there and they're gonna pay it for me. And I'm not doing anything crazy that you can't do. I'll outline all the things you need to do, how to get a house with $0 down. So I moved to Austin in January 2021. In the months leading up to it, I was looking to buy a house here. If you've been following my channel at all, most of you know that I don't invest in real estate here in Austin. I have properties in Arkansas, in Ohio, Florida, and New Jersey. I was looking to buy a property to house hack and put little money down. House hacking is when you buy a property to live in, and when you rent out the other bedrooms, you end up covering your mortgage, so you live rent free. Yay! It's honestly a great way to get started investing if you have little money. I wanted to put little money down, mainly because I knew I was going to quit my job later in 2021 to go all in on my YouTube channel here and TikTok. And so I wanted to have some savings in case things goes wrong. I made 3 offers on 3 different properties, and I got outbid by literally everyone. People who had cash offers and put in way more than me. One of the houses that I put an offer on was asking for $300K. I put in an offer at $340, and I lost to someone with $380, all cash.
Damn.
As I was defeated by all the Californians moving here and just increasing home prices significantly by overbidding on everything, I said I'm gonna put my dream to the side of buying a house hack and putting little money down on a property anytime soon. After I stopped looking for homes, the home prices just kept going up, even worse than I expected them to go. The median home price here went from like $350 to now it's over $600. Now, I felt like I definitely couldn't afford anything at all. I barely could afford a house in Austin to begin with because I was looking for rental property and something that I could live in. The numbers were too tight to work with anything to buying a rental property. The reason being is that my mortgage would have been a lot higher here, making it really difficult for me to cash flow. And so at this point, I was like, there's no way I could afford a house now. A few months go by, I was on Bigger Pockets and someone asked a question about investing in Austin, so I decided to chime in given my great experience there. I told them that home prices were way too expensive and people overbid like crazy, so there's never going to be a way for you to find a cash flowing property. You might as well look elsewhere. And then a few hours later, I got this message from this realtor and investor named Victor here in Austin. And he was like, hey, I might have a way for you to cash flow. Let's hop on a call later. And usually I don't take random DMs, but this time I decided to. So I went on the Zoom call with him and he broke down this niche strategy that he was telling me about on a way to find cash flow in Austin. It's called rent by the room. Let me explain how it works. So normally, when you buy a house and you rent it out like a single family home, you typically give one lease out to everyone who lives in the house. It's for one group of people and you usually get them to sign for like a year. In the rent by the room strategy, it's a little bit different. You rent out each bedroom separately on its own lease. So if you had 4-bedroom house, you rent it out on 4 leases. And by doing that, you get to charge a higher per room rent rather than charging a high overall rent for the whole house. And instead of making it a yearly lease like a normal rental, instead you make it a month-to-month lease with a 3-month minimum. So for you, you get higher rents and the tenant gets to move into a place quick that's already furnished and has flexibility to be able to go wherever they want. Yeah, I know they live with strangers, but they do it because it's cheaper than renting a studio or a 1-bedroom apartment on its own. A studio in Austin on average costs $1337 a month and a 1-bedroom costs $1501 per month. In the rent by the room strategy, you charge $750 to $950 for 1 bedroom for someone to be able to live in. So someone's saving on the low end $400 if they rent by the room, or on the high end $800 a month. That's a lot of money. Victor was also mentioning that the other reason why this works is because so many people are moving here, and because there's so little houses, very few people are able to get into a house to find a rent or to buy. And so they like the flexibility of being able to go whenever. This way, if they find a house to buy, they can move out. Or if they find a nice house they want to rent long term, they can move out as well. Realizing the power of this strategy, I could use a 4-bedroom house to rent from anywhere between $3,000 to $3,800 per month, whereas typically in Austin, a 4-bedroom house would only rent for $2,500. That would allow me to cash flow on some of these homes that I would have never been able to do before. I started looking for properties with him. This is like right before I left my job, and I put another offer in, and it didn't get accepted. I already had set the date to quit my job, so I ended up leaving. And once I lost my job, I thought I'd never be able to get a regular loan again. So I honestly just gave up the dream of buying a house in Austin. I remember having one night here with my girlfriend and just talking to her about like, it's sad, I'll never be able to afford a house in Austin like the way I wanted to. By the time I wanted to buy something, everything's gonna be $1 million. It would have taken me 2 years with this business of income in order to be able to use that to qualify for a new loan. But then something changed last month. Victor sent me a text and showed me a closing statement of one of his clients that bought a house in a north suburb of Austin for $3,000. The house was $333,000 and he closed on it for $3,000. I asked him how he put so little down.
Teach me.
And he told me that he used an FHA loan, a TSAHC grant, and seller paid closing costs. Instantly, I was interested to see about how this works, so let me break down all three of these for you. This way you can do it yourself. An FHA loan is a loan that allows you to put 3.5% down on a property if you decide to live in it, and the minimum requirement to living in it is only 1 year. I knew about this loan already. It wasn't a shock to me. The second thing that he did was seller paid closing costs. This is usually when you as the buyer want the seller to pay your closing costs for you. But you're like, why would the seller probably do that? Let me explain. The way you do it is you make a higher offer than what the seller wanted on their house. And then at closing day, you basically get the bank to pay the closing costs for you to the seller, and the seller pays your half for you. Let me give you a quick example. So if you were to buy a $100K house, and let's say you didn't want to pay the closing costs, the closing costs on a $100K house are probably going to be somewhere around $5K. If you add that to the home price, then you need a home price offer of $105K. You make an offer on the house for $105K and you say, hey, I want the seller to pay my closing costs of $5K. Now, in order for this to work, the bank actually has to say that the house is worth $105K. That's the trick. It has to be worth the difference that you're asking for. Also, the seller has to accept and agree to this part of the contract. But now, if the seller pays your closing costs and you only have to put 3.5% down, the only thing we got to worry about is how do we cover the rest of this down payment. And that's where the TSAHC program comes in. I call it TSHAC. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. TSHAC is a program that helps low-income families afford a house by being able to cover their down payment by using a forgivable loan or a grant. The TSHAC program is a Texas-specific program, so you won't be able to get it in every state, but every state has their own program. These programs are known as down payment assistance programs. Basically, the way it works with the TSHAC is if I keep the house for 3 years, I won't have to pay the loan back. The reason I couldn't use this before is because I was working a software engineering job, and that plus my rental income was too high to qualify for this low income thing. Now that I'm doing this YouTube and TikTok thing on my own and my income is really variable every single month, it's below 123K per year, which allows me to qualify for it. But since I don't have a W-2 job, I wouldn't be able to qualify for this loan, so I had to get creative. So I called up my brother, who's a full-time accountant with a W-2 job, and I asked him if he wanted to partner up on this property, and he agreed to. So to recap, if I use an FHA loan and ask the seller to pay my closing costs, and I use a TSHAC program or a down payment assistance program, I can come into the house with $0 down, and I won't have to pay that down payment back. Then if I combine this with the rent by the room strategy and house hacking, I can live there the first year for free by having my tenants pay my rent for me, and then after I move out, I can start saving some money for vacancy and repairs and stuff like that, and cash flow $150 a month, all while making a decent amount on appreciation because this area is growing rapidly. The reason why this method is so powerful is for a few reasons. First, it allows me to get a $400,000 house with $0 out of my pocket. Even if I end up paying like $1,000 for a $400,000 house, that is an amazing ROI. Austin's homes have been appreciating like crazy over time, and I don't think it'll crash in the near future. Maybe it'll slow down, and that's okay, but there's just way too many people moving here. So I'll be getting some of that appreciation over a year, and if it appreciates about 10%, that means I'll add $40K to my net worth with $0 out of pocket, all while having my mortgage paid for. And then after that, once I move out, I can start making a little bit of profit too. The cash flow is low, I know that, but the opportunity for me to be able to pull this off, I couldn't do anywhere else because I have to do it where I live, and I have to do it while I have a low income salary right now. And if you think about it, if I put $0 down for a house that makes me $150 per month, that is an infinite return on investment. So I put 3 more offers now in on properties, and all 3 have gotten declined, but I'm gonna keep going forward and trying to get one. I'll keep you guys updated on here and on my TikTok. So let's say you wanna do this. What can you do? The first thing you need to do is ask yourself, are you okay with house hacking? It would only be for a year, so if you can make that sacrifice, it can really help you live rent-free and allow you to get in a house for a lot cheaper. And if you're okay with that, you need to decide how you're gonna house hack. If you live in a market where cash flowing homes are really easy to find, which is not most people these days, then you'll be able to get the house and just do a long-term rental, and you won't have to do rent by the room. But if you live in a market that has gone up with really high home prices, then you might want to look into house hacking while doing rent by the room or Airbnb and Airbnb-ing out the extra rooms. So you wanna pick one of these strategies. Airbnb, rent by the room, or long-term based on your location. Now, the next thing you need to do is call up a bank and get pre-approved for an FHA loan and the down payment assistance program in your state. You're gonna go to Google and search down payment assistance programs and then enter your state. There's gonna be a few links that'll tell you more information about the down payment assistance programs, and then what you're gonna wanna look for is something that'll tell you about eligible lenders, because not every lender is gonna be able to give you the down payment assistance program. Only specific ones will be able to. You're gonna call up one of the lenders and ask them if you can qualify for the FHA and the down payment assistance program and see how much you can qualify up to. They're gonna ask you for your financial information, like your credit score, your job, how much you have in savings, how much you have invested elsewhere, your expenses every single month, your job history, all these things. And they're gonna let you know if they qualify. At the end, they'll give you a pre-approval letter that says, hey, you can afford a house up to this much. Because my income is so complicated and I have a co-signer with my brother, it took me 2 months to get qualified for a house. But for you, it should probably take a couple days if you just have a normal job. Now, if you qualify for this program, great. We can move on to the next step. Start looking for houses. Go to Zillow and look at homes. And while you're looking at them, you want to click call an agent to call up an agent to get started. And you want to find an investor-friendly agent. An investor-friendly agent is someone who acts quickly and someone who understands the numbers. You're going to tell them exactly what you're looking to do. And from there, you can go look at properties. You want to find one in a decent area, one that you know is going to be growing over time, not in a bad area where there's a lot of crime, especially if you're living there. Don't live in the bougiest of areas because that usually does not help your cash flow. You also want to find a house that will help cover your mortgage and taxes and insurance while you're there. To do that, you might want to use a spreadsheet or calculator like the one that I have, but if not, you can totally use your own and do whatever you want, but make sure that you're analyzing each deal. You need to take the rent and subtract the mortgage, taxes, insurance, and all the other costs with the property. If that works, then I want you to analyze the property again and see what happens after you move out. Does the rent start covering everything and making you a decent profit? If the rent still covers all the mortgage, taxes, insurance, property management, utilities, and savings for vacancy and repairs, then guess what? You found a good one. You should make an offer right away. And you're gonna keep making offers until you get one accepted. And just as a quick side note, it may take you a little bit longer to get an offer accepted because it's not necessarily attractive to a seller to get them to pay their closing costs and that you're only putting very little money down. It shows that you're not that qualified of a buyer and you may fall out of contract. So they may not be as ready to accept your offer versus like a cash offer. So you may need to put in more offers over time in order to get something accepted. But stick to it. It took me 9 offers before I got my first one accepted. And in this market, it might take you even more. You're just gonna keep making offers until you get a home. Now, if you wanna learn how to buy your first rental property step by step, then make sure to click the video on screen where I break down everything you need to know from start to finish. I'll see you over there.